Welcome back to the Citizen Data Academy. This video is the 6th in our Living in Baton Rouge module. We'll showcase our new Baton Rouge Police Department Crime Trends Analysis dashboard. Many of you are already aware that you can access BRPD reported crime data from our Open Data BR portal and in Open Neighborhood BR. Now we've developed the BRPD Crime Trends Analysis dashboard to display summary statistics and recent trends by crime category in the city of Baton Rouge. You can access the dashboard at brla.gov/crimestats. All of the data is shown on a single page for your convenience. Upon opening the dashboard, you will briefly see the left panel slide out, which contains definitions of each crime category presented in the dashboard. For example, the distinction between an actual homicide and a negligent or justifiable homicide. The panel can be expanded by clicking the right arrow on the left edge of the page. These indicators at the top of the page display the trends and calls for service for 10 different crime categories, including alarm, assault or battery, burglary, disturbance, mental health, overdose, robbery, theft, traffic, and vehicle theft. The data presented in these metrics is updated after midnight daily. The top numbers shown in white represent the total number of 911 calls for each crime category over the last 28 days. The numbers below them measure the percent change by comparing the volume of calls in the last 28 days to the 28-day average for the last 6 months. If the number of calls has trended downward or stayed consistent with the 6-month average, the percent change is shown in green. And if the number of calls has trended upwards, the percent change is shown in red. For example, we can see that burglaries have trended upwards recently. There have been 212 calls for burglaries in the last 28 days, which is over 7% higher than the average of the last 6 months, whereas calls for theft have declined by 13% in the last 28 days. The 4 indicators at the bottom of the page are updated weekly, usually on Mondays. The 2 on the left track trends of homicides, while the other 2 track felony arrests and firearms seized. We can see that so far this year, the homicide rates are down by more than 20%, while felony arrests are up by 25%, and firearms seized are up by more than 21%. By default, the dashboard shows the percent change of these metrics between the year-to-date compared to the previous year-to-date. But you can cycle through 5 different options by left-clicking these arrows. In addition to the percent change, you can also see the counts by each metric for this month, year-to-date, and previous year-to-date. Also, the date of when the data was last updated for each metric is shown in the final tab. You can also click this link to access additional statistics provided by the Baton Rouge Police Department. There are 3 additional sets of metrics on the right side of the dashboard. The top one shows the trends for all calls for service, comparing the total number of calls received this year to date to the number of calls received the previous year to date. Currently, the volume for all 911 calls is down 7% compared to this time last year. With the arrow buttons, you can cycle this indicator to show a chart with the total calls by month, a gauge comparing the number of calls this year to date to the total of all calls during the previous year, and the date of when the data for these metrics was last updated. The middle indicator shows trends in property calls for service, comparing the number of calls received in the last 7 days to the 7-day rolling average over the last 6 months. Currently, the call volume for property crime is down about 13% over the last 7 days. The second tab, named Calls by Month, displays a bar chart of the total number of property crime calls by month over the last 12 months. Likewise, the bottom indicator shows trends in violent calls for service, comparing the number of calls received in the last 7 days to the 7-day rolling average over the last 6 months. Currently, the call volume for violent crime is down 4% over the last 7 days. The second tab displays a bar chart of the total number of calls for violent crime by month over the last 12 months. This button at the top right can take you to the EBRGIS homepage, the EBRGIS portal, or the BRPD webpage. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.